But all jokes aside, I'm here to bring a serious issue. Every time I've come to City Council, I've brought a serious issue. 2023, I told the story of my niece being shot in a triple shooting. And then I came back with solutions and ideas. Unfortunately, both times I was here, City Council completely ignored everything I said. So I imagine today would be the same. But with that being said, I want to show and introduce everybody to the chicken bucket. This is one of Wherever's last products before they shut down. My uncle worked there from 1959 until the time it shut down, and I like to think that maybe his hands, helped put some of this together or work on this. But the reality is, in 2015, he died from COPD. I never understood how a man who was all about health and fitness and never smoked could die from COPD. In 1959, he was in the National Guard. He was on the front lines in Chillicothe when the flood came through and ravaged the city. He was there sandbagging, pulling people from homes, rescuing them. He was also a race car driver, loved racing stock cars at Atomic Speedway. He was one of those those John Wayne types. And I never could understand how he could just waste away and die the way he did. It wasn't until I started looking into his medical records that I started seeing things mentioned such as benzene, Teflons. In fact, his medical record right here says this gentleman is retired from Wherever Corporation in Chillicothe, Ohio, and the patient reports being exposed to chemicals throughout the years. I never knew how toxic that site was until I started doing my own investigation, started digging into it. And being a journalist, I dug deep and discovered how toxic that site was and still is. And how for 30 years it's been left to huddle cancer under our streets. 3 years ago I began this journey, discovered how dirty Wherever was, and also learned that Chillicothe is not the only town that's ever been affected by the owners of Wherever. Alcoa. Google, make that your homework tonight. Google Alcoa and see how they have affected and polluted and contaminated every single town they have a facility at. Also international, look what they're doing in Australia right now. They're corporate polluters. They come, they use, they leave. 3 years ago, as I started beginning this investigation, I reached out to you, Mayor Feeney. In fact, I have a copy of the email. Actually, the multiple emails I sent you. Asking what would happen if that toxic plume started shifting and got into the wastewater treatment plant. Would there be new chemical treatment processes that would be needed to handle an influx of nasty chemicals? You know what the answer was? Crickets. Nothing. I'm glad you mentioned the city dump tonight and the EPA violation, because I was going to bring that up tonight and see if council had been made aware of that. Because that dump is also another toxic site in Chillicothe. How many people from the 80s remember the legal battle when it was shut down? How many of you know about the hazardous chemicals from DuPont that was dumped there? From 1974 to 1979, 6,500 tons of hazardous waste were put into our landfill. And at the time, the city of Chillicothe must have said, oh, that's fine. On top of all the other nasty stuff there, that's the reason why it has to be monitored. On top of being a landfill, all landfills have to be monitored. But this site is extra toxic. And it's not the only one. This city is full of old, toxic sites. Some have been cleaned, some questionable. How many folks here know about the old chemical factory on Washington Avenue? Anybody remember that one? And the 2 sludge lagoons that were literally a stone's throw from the entrance to Mary Lou Patton Park. Anybody know about the stuff they had there? Sulfuric acid mixed with bauxite, a very toxic. Good. Oh, I got 1 minute? Well, I'll make this real quick, because the point of this is I'm calling City Council to do a full epidemiological study of Chillicothe and how these toxic sites have affected the cancer rates in this community. real quick, I want to hit these cancer rates. Chillicothe, these are from the 2025 Ohio Health Department. 19% of new cancer cases in Chillicothe, or in Ross County, excuse me, and 29.3% of deaths is lung and bronchial cancer. So often, people want to blame smoking as the cause of cancer. Since Mr. Shoemaker spoke up, President Shoemaker, that's also what they like to say in Pike County as the cause of all the cancer rates down there, not the giant atomic plant that was there with the radiation. They like to say smoking's the cause. Well, smoking is a cause of lung cancer, but not the only one. Things such as, I don't know, TCE, arsenic, heavy metals, vinyl chloride, dioxin, benzene, aluminum oxide, all those can cause lung cancer. Those are chemicals that have been found throughout Chillicothe at various sites, from wherever, to the old CSX railroad, that we end up taking part of that and turning it into the transit depot and left the back half of it. We have all these toxic sites that have put out so much chemicals. Let's look at some of the other cancers. Pancreatic cancer, 8.3% of cancer deaths in Ross County come from pancreatic cancer. That can also be linked to heavy metals and dioxin, which was a big pollutant over the years coming from the paper plants. It's well documented. These are all chemicals that have been found in soil, air, water in Ross County and Chillicothe, and specifically in East End. These are not numbers, these are lives, these are families, and I know this is election year, but people of this community are watching to see how this council handles the toxic messes and the legacy from those, and whether or not you're going to find out if they're linked to the cancer problems we have in this county. We have some of the highest cancer rates in the state of Ohio and nationally. We're behind Piketon, but not by much. I'm asking this council to see what connection there is, because there's so many toxic places. Has anyone ever tested Mary Lou Patton Park, the groundwater, the soil, to see if there's any carcinogens or chemicals from either wherever, the old city dump that was also on Rannoch Avenue, the old lime pit that's over there by where the water treatment plant is, or the old chemical factory? Has anybody ever tested that? Where kids play? My kids played there. I say all this because I know most of these old toxic problems never fell on the lap of this council or this mayor. They was inherited. But this council and this mayor may very well deal with a monster toxic mess right down the road if nobody buys it and cleans it up. I understand Crow's cessation of regular operations. I understand that. We've seen that played out other places and still have a mess.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shoemaker. People in this town are watching.